purpose of this hole at St Peters is exploration. And if you want to know the sort of information that's gathered from exploration, I refer you to that dig site. It's really exhaustive. All of the facts are there for many years.
Can we get the details for that dig site, please, just so that...
If you Google dig, simple as D-I-G-S, you'll find that you can
I've
get
got a question on the back. My name's Fiona and I live in Tempe, I'm local. Premier Anna Bligh, Queensland Premier Anna Bligh today announced that there's going to be a 2-kilometre buffer zone outside of where there are more than 1,000 dwellings in southeast Queensland. Now the inner west, and particularly this area, is one of the most highly densely, if not the most highly densely populated suburbs of Sydney. If it's not okay to drill within 2 kilometres, not 200 metres, 2 kilometres of 1,000 dwellings in southeast Queensland, why is it okay to do it here in Sydney?
So a couple of things on that. For me, it's all about coexistence. And, It's on there. It's not about me living here or not living here. For me, it's about to what extent does it make sense to have a coal seam gas well in a large industrial area? And if we
It's
come
not a large industrial area. We live here. We live here.
We live here.
I live here.
For sale if you want to coexist with them. Stick down here in Molyneux Avenue, Newtown, nice cafes, and you can walk to work if you like.
Now, I realize it's an emotive issue. I realize that you have concerns and that you're worried about it. Yeah? So I just would like to make a couple of comments before I talk about my walkabouts in the area, if you like. The lady on the second row made a point about feedback and information available on our website. So I think that's good feedback, and I think we can improve in that area. So we'll try and do that. The other thing I'd like to repeat is that earlier this year we were planning to drill a well at St Peters, but we've since looked at our portfolio of assets in New South Wales, and we've come to the conclusion that it's not a priority for us. And what goes into the mix is a whole bunch of things. It's about a technical evaluation, it's around access, it's around a whole bunch of stuff. So again, I'd just like to make sure that people understand that we're not going to be drilling here this year or next year or the year thereafter. And
why are you extending the exploratory license then?
well, the reason for that is that this PL 463 covers 2,400 square kilometers. So there are a large number of open spaces and areas that we believe are appropriate for coal seam gas. And again, it starts out with an exploration well, and that's why I cannot say anything about 2014 onwards. It all depends on what the results of an exploration well. If the exploration well shows that there's not enough gas, the coal seams aren't thick enough, then we just say, okay, it's not prospective, we'll go somewhere else.
Well, can I ask a question about the land access agreements you need to have with landholders, where you actually propose to put drill sites? Now, we're not interested in the compensation because that clearly would be a matter where it's an actual commercial property of commercial in confidence. But the residents and the other businesses in the area certainly have an interest in knowing what the actual agreement about access is, because it affects traffic conditions, it'll tell us something about the actual hours of operation and things like that. So will those agreements, excising the commercial in confidence elements for the actual price, will they be made available to the public and including our community?
Yeah, you're saying excluding the amount of money, I understand, right? Yeah, I have no issue with making that transparent at all. I think in fact, I think it's important that that becomes transparent. And I think it's important that there's dialogue about it with certain members of the community. How can we best do it? But again, we're talking about 2014 at the earliest, and it's a big maybe anyway. So the way exploration works, my assessment would be that by that time, we'll have matured our priority areas. So 2014, or 3 or 4 years from now, is a long time from an exploration perspective. Okay, question here.
My name's Dane Patsky. I live on the Queensland Western Downs. I live in a gas field. I've come down here to ask you about the blowout of Arrow Energy's well at Dandine. Now, I know a lot of the media reports said that the well just exploded. That didn't actually happen. That is a regular process where they remove the top of the well and remove the blowout preventer, and they replace the pump in the bottom of the well. So you need to do that 200 metres away from people's homes. How can you guarantee that that will not happen? And you know the reason it happened, because the gas built up enough pressure and it just blew the mud out, which you pump into the well. How can you guarantee that that is not going to happen 200 metres away from this lady's house?
What I can tell you is that the wells that are being drilled today.
So you cannot guarantee that. It's a yes or no answer. Can you guarantee that the well will not blow out next to these people's homes?
With all respect, that's the same as asking me, whether the pilot that's flying my plane tonight can guarantee that the.
So that's an acceptable risk for you to run into people's homes, because that is a risk that always happens when these pumps wear out, which they do over a 2-year period, where you have a workover rig come in, another drill rig, which you haven't told these people around. So every 2 years, when a workover rig comes in, removes the top of the well, pumps it full of mud, replaces the pump, that is a risk.
Workovers can happen in a perfectly safe manner.
They can, but that is an acceptable risk next to 200 metres from people's homes. It was an accident. They didn't blow the well off on purpose. It happened. So you are prepared to risk these people's safety. Are you going to remove these people? They had a 5 kilometre no-fly exclusion zone around that well, and they had a 1 kilometre exclusion area around the well on the ground. So how can you do it with these people here? 200 metres from there. Are you going to remove everybody from the area within 1 kilometre when you replace these pumps?
I think we need to clarify a couple of things here. I'm not aware of the specifics of Arrow Energy's activities.
It doesn't matter. Arrow Energy or not, you still need to follow the same procedures.
But we don't. This is an exploration well. There will be no pump going down any hole. We are taking drill core samples from the hole. So if you'd like me to answer the question, I will. But you have to let me answer the question. Is that okay? Can you guarantee?
Can you guarantee me a truthful answer?
Yes, I can.
Okay, go for it, please. I'm all ears, please.
I appreciate the rhetoric. Just answer the question.
There's no better than you. But what I was saying, I pushed that in near me. This is an exploration well. There will be no pump. If we're conducting exploration, our activities are approved and certified to conduct exploration. If production wells are being drilled, it's a very different story. The hoops and the guarantees are very different. We're talking about an exploration well. On an exploration well, once the BOP goes on, it stays on for the duration of the hole. It comes off when the hole underneath it has been cement filled from bottom to top. That cement has been weight tested and guaranteed set. That's when the BOP comes off, believe me. That's how we do it on hundreds of holes.
That's
every year.
Blowout preventer.
Sorry, man, blowout preventer.
Blowout preventer. So, what do you...
I don't think we'll be seeing a pump being pulled from this hole at St Peters.
Because it's an exploration one, but when you move into full production, which you are pushing for, otherwise you wouldn't be doing exploration wells. So let's go from exploration to production. How can you then guarantee these people's safety?
We're not stupid.
No, and nor am I, but I'm an exploration geologist. And we're talking about exploration tonight. We're not talking about production. Can I ask you a question?
Well,
there's a freeway plan to go through this part of Sydney. Is there a problem with them conducting the geotech work before they build the freeway? Or is the problem with the freeway?
it depends if It depends if the people who own Sydney Airport are going to turn into a runway after they survey for a freeway. Are you going to turn this area into a production
I
area?
think that's what you'd have to call a red herring. Now look, I think it's important that you might understand what a production facility in an urban area looks
What, a
like.
central processing plant?
No, we're
Okay.
talking about a production area.
But
Can I ask how many people have gas to their houses in this room? Okay, you've all got gas lines to your houses. The gas that would be taken away from a site such as this, if it was a production site, would be taken away in the high pressure gas network that exists in the suburb. That's how it's done in Campbelltown.
Okay, well-
Now, going back to the production facility that might be required,
it will be required.
production facility in an urban area would normally consist of an area about maybe 2 acres. Bear in mind that the Dial Dump site is about 50 hectares.
So we keep it going back to the
120
one
acres.
site.
No, there are many areas like that in this area, but that was considered to be a very noisy environment where there's a lot of activity already, and we needed to use about 70 metre square area of that site, about 1 acre. That's what our activities are normally conducted on, because we're talking exploration. Once we know the results of an exploration well, we're in a position to establish the value of the project and whether it's worth proceeding with. But an exploration well is necessary first.
So you can be like, well, where we ended up, I've heard this before, we had an exploration well going next to my house and now live in a gas field.
The current exploration license expires in October of this year. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And when will you know, or when will we know, if your application for a renewal of that license is successful?
Advice that a renewal has been granted is a couple of months after that date. Now, if the rules have changed, sorry, Mr. Neal, but the rules, we were advised just before Christmas that new guidelines would be introduced. We haven't actually been given a new set of guidelines yet. That doesn't
Sorry,
spell out all the guidelines.
I was just wondering, because I'm part of the immediate community,
Yeah.
just it seems like a bit of a grey area for us, the timeline of what's going to happen around us and to us.
As I said earlier, it's often the attitudes and feelings of the community that dictate the timeline. That's why DART is interested naturally in talking to the community.
And so
the community is interested to talk to DART.